Welcome back to the Active Listener, and I'm really pleased to say that Louise didn't run away. She's come back for her final podcast with me. So welcome back, Louise.
Thanks for having me again, Mark. It's a pleasure.
No worries. And this is an interesting one because we're going to talk today about career change. A lot of people during the pandemic I think have taken time to reflect where they're going, what do they value, and that's come out in big resignation we've heard a lot about. People are working from home a lot more, and I think it's just a real sort of appreciation of what we do and don't have, and it's got people thinking about, right, what next for me. Now I understand you've done something on this, so how would you go about looking for the new thing, doing something different to what your current career is?
Yeah, fab. It's something that I've spent a lot of time. I've worked with a lot of clients on this subject. My book, Finding a Future That Fits, was written all around this topic. But what's really key is I think we're in a really interesting time. I think it's a really good time to be a coach, because I think you're absolutely right. People are really reflecting on where they're at. They're sort of assessing where they're at. They're thinking about, I know, even with the cost of living crisis and all the things that are being thrown at us, it's rocking our world. And it's just, I think sometimes things have to fall apart to come back together. And I think people really are starting to think about the future and what that looks like, and reprioritizing actually what's important to them. I think that's the big one, isn't it? As people work more from home, for us as a family, my husband spent 20 years traveling up and down the motorway for 4 hours a day. And when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden we're together as a family cooking dinner and walking the dogs at 5:30. It has been life-changing, honestly life-changing for us as a family. So it's a really good time to be a coach, because I think people are really asking some profound and deep questions about their purpose and why they're here. So yeah, where do you start? Where do you start? I think one of the first things, I'm thinking back to the days when I was really focusing on this with clients, is around getting to know who you are. I think we live to other people's ideas, we live to other people's definition of success and happiness, and we never stop to kind of ask, who am I? What's important to me? What is my definition of happiness? What is my definition of success? And often, we're almost sleepwalking, aren't we? We're sort of influenced so heavily by what society and what our culture says. So I think one of the first things is just to slow down and to stop and think about, who am I? Who do I want to become? I used to do a piece of work with clients around looking at what I called your blueprint. And we do a series of exercises, almost like building a jigsaw puzzle of that individual. So before we'd even getting to think about, well, what could I do and what other careers are out there, we just sort of slow down and say, well, let's just explore who you are. Let's look at your blueprint. And this could be things like, basic things like looking at your values, looking at your interests and your passions, looking at your gift zone, your talents, what comes easily to you, looking at the environments that best support you even, really understanding sort of the core bedrock of who you are, because this then gives you a sort of compass. It helps you kind of start to navigate what's right and what's wrong. So that's probably one of the first things, is to look, who am I? What drives me? What are my motivators? There's so much out there, so many tools that people can use to help them. Lots of books out there as well. I think that has to be the starting point with any sort of transition or career change, is getting to know who you are.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I certainly do that with people I've coached, and often it comes as quite a surprise to people, I think, what their values and what their limiting beliefs actually are, and just having that process where everything is on the paper and looking at what is it that means something to me really helps with trying to narrow down where they want to go, and also recognizing that we're at different stages of life, and those values fluctuate depending on where we're at. So let's say I've sat down, we've had a session together, and I've kind of identified the things that I value in life, and those have been impacted, particularly with being at home with the family, like you were mentioning yourself, during COVID. And I'm thinking, right, I want to get a job that ticks the boxes of things I enjoy, but I also want to spend time, get that work-life balance.
what do I do now?
Oh gosh, yeah. I think it's work-life balance is key, and I think we've become more focused on it, haven't we, since the pandemic? We're much more aware of getting that balance right. I think it's exploring what's out there and really bearing that in mind. It's almost that priority, isn't it? Well, if that's important, I need to look for opportunities that will it could be being a remote. I work remotely for an organisation, and it's brilliant for family life and work-life balance because it allows me to. I finish at 5:30, and I can be walking the dogs by, by 5:35, and it gives me that life work balance without the commute. So I think it's a priority thing, isn't it? And I think it's looking and exploring those possibilities. I mean, some people don't have any option. It's hard, isn't it? It's not easy out there at the moment. But it's exploring what possibilities are out there. So it's understanding who you are, your blueprint, and then looking at what is out there. And I think, again, it's exciting times because there's a lot of online opportunity now, lots of online, whether it be starting a business, working for, remotely for an organisation. There's lots going on out there. And I think it's really exploring without judgment, really. It's hard sometimes because we say no sometimes too soon, don't we? It's not slamming the door before we've had a chance to really look at, what is possible, what is out there. Yeah.
I think also it's something about perhaps being realistic, that we know, okay, to a certain extent, I'm stuck in this job whoever is stuck in the job for the time being. But there may be something I can do that still aligns to the things that I value. So things I can to sort of putting a little boundary. So I do spend time with the family, or, there's something I really enjoy doing. I don't know, walking the dog, whatever it may be, that I can shoehorn a little bit of time in for me to do that thing. So it doesn't mean that suddenly I'm going to have to jack in my job to pursue a career as a pilot or something, but it may be that I can start doing stuff on a smaller scale to research what that would be involved in, and dip my toe in the water.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout, and I think that's really wise. We don't want to be jumping out of a job and have nothing in front of us. I think it's a transition, and financially as well. If if you know that you want to make a transition, you want to make a career change, I think it's good to financially plan for that, because when the time does come, you don't want that pressure on you. So I think it's good to kind of financially plan for that if you're able to do that. And I appreciate that things are tricky out there at the moment, but I think if you can, that takes the pressure off somewhat. But you're right, small changes and talking to people. Maybe there's somebody that's doing something that you think, well, that's interesting. How did they get into that? It's exploring, and that opens up doors. Or even shadowing work, volunteering can open up doors and helps you showcase your abilities and skills. It's being brave, I suppose, putting yourself out there. And seeing what
what's
comes
the
up.
worst can happen. You can ask someone, they say no. It is just, I'm a great believer in knocking the door and see which one opens. And I think, again, there's something there, isn't there, about maybe multiple income streams, that you've got your main job, but maybe you try these other things. It's kind of a freedom if you have your main job. You may not love it, but you know that that's a certain amount of income coming in, and it's trying to create those other things where you can test the water, but within the confines, or recognizing the limitations you have, because we only do have 24 hours a day. We should get sleep, we should spend time with the kids, we should walk the dog, we need to eat. So we're not living in a dream where we recognize all those things, but at least trying to come up with some time to pursue what it is you want to.
I think so, and it's creating that space, and also in that space the creative ideas come, the bingo moments when we're rushing, when we're under pressure. It's really hard for that to kind of to come to fruition. So I think creating as much space, lots of walking in nature, all that kind of thing, is where we get those sort of magic ideas. And I just want to share a couple of examples. I was just thinking about sort of a couple of clients that these are just nice examples to share. I had a client who worked in the financial industries and wanted to, we were doing this work, we were looking at a blueprint and thinking, what can I do? What would I like to do? And floristry was one of the things that she was interested in, but it was a big leap, doing a course, what would it be like, setting up my own business as a florist, etc. So she was in that exploratory stage and just went and volunteered on a Saturday at a local floristry shop and helped to get a flavour of what it would be like, and the pressures, the joy, whatever. And that was she did become a florist, but that was the starting point for her, was just to explore that. I had another client who was a teacher and kept a llama. This is really random on this one. On a local field. She just always wanted to have a llama. And through doing that, through sort of, keeping this llama, she made the decision to leave coaching, or not coaching, sorry, leave teaching, and set up a llama farm. And she now treks llamas. Yeah, she does a bit of teaching, but sort of more private tutoring, etc. So there's some fun things. I think there's some random stuff that people do, but it's she loves it. It's her. She loves her llamas. So there's just some nice stories, really, a couple of nice stories to share with you about people that have made that transition. Yeah,
that's really cool. I was going to say, look, going to do a shameless plug. Tell us a little bit about your book. I know you haven't asked me to do this, but given there's a link there, tell us a little bit about your book and how maybe people can get hold of that and how it can help them.
Yeah, Finding a Future That Fits was written a while back now, but it still stands. It's really about those that are looking for a career, not just a career change, just a transition, a shift in their life, and those that really want to make their mark on the planet. I suppose that was my sort of primary sort of focus as I was writing it, because I believe that we're all here to make our mark on the planet. We're all here to make a difference, and really the book is about that. It's about, who am I, what are my gifts, what are my talents, what are my values, and getting people to think about what that purpose actually looks like. And it's worth saying that purpose can change. It's not one thing that you kind of find and then you're going to do it for the rest of your life. That isn't the case. Purpose comes in many shapes and forms, and it does change as we move through our life. So yeah, my purpose has certainly shifted and changed in my career over the years, but Finding a Future That Fits really does what it says on the tin. It's about finding a future that really brings you alive and that's purposeful and meaningful for you and for those around you and those lives that you touch. So it's a bit like, it's a coaching book, to be fair, and it's very much about walking you. It's almost like going on a coaching journey with me, step by step, leading you through each stage of that journey, of that sort of uncovering, if you like. It's on Amazon, so you can get a copy on Amazon if you want to have a look. Excellent.
Well, look, as always, Louise, thank you for your time. And I will say, you are an excellent coach, and I've really appreciated being on the receiving end of your coaching as well. So definitely, if you need a coach, guys out there, check out Louise's website and sign up. Great. Thank again
you,
for
Mark.
your time.
Thanks ever so much.
Take care.